Market update. All the reasons why you should A, stop being bearish, and B, embrace the good side of the force. All the good things that can happen, as we just discussed in the YouTube member podcast, where we did the 2026 preview. We did all the coins you want for the AI era, which isn't the AI era. It's just the era, the agent economy, some mind-blowing stuff, right? Shared right here with Toby Ward doing her version of the type of reports you see in Patreon Platinum, where we have been publishing our butts off. We will discuss Michael Saylor. We will discuss why everybody has been scared out of the water. Namely, this is nothing more than a 30 to 40% drop like what you would get in 2017 when China would threat to kick out all the Bitcoin miners. This time around, you have people threatening to kick Michael Saylor's company Strategy out of stock indices, which is Jamie Dimon and the Fed. That's somewhat redundant. Fighting against the Treasury Secretary, the idea of the Treasury creating money through stable coins, and the ultimate destination of those stable coins, which is Bitcoin. All right. So we're going to go through some exciting charts, some very exciting charts, namely a wave count on the Bitcoin ETF. Everyone is looking at the 50-week moving average. I'm looking at something different. We're also going to talk about how to party like it's 1999. Yes, there is a possibility that Bitcoin and crypto in general acts just like Nasdaq did in 1999. Namely, back then you had everyone get bearish in October of 1999, only to see Nasdaq go vertical. How vertical? Well, you're just going to have to stay tuned to see the charts. I was there. It was stark, raving, unbelievable. And in case you're getting ready to not believe it, which you probably are, remember, when everybody talks about something being a bubble, it's not a bubble. I woke up 2 days ago. There were 6 articles on Zero Hedge about the AI bubble in stonks. It's a bubble when they rewrite the finance textbook because it's a new paradigm. I know because I had that book. What happens, or let's put it this way, how do you get 200K Bitcoin? Everyone was like, oh, Bitcoin's going to 200K. ETH's going to 10,000. And everybody was like on the old Muppet Show, Google the Muppet Show and watch all the Muppets when everybody goes, when they agree with something. ETH 10,000. 250K Bitcoin. No one thinks about how you get there. How are you going to get there? Well, it's very simple. You got to get everyone out. You get the bulls out. Then you get everyone bearish. Then you get everyone short. And I'm not talking about this at a tactical level. I'm talking about this as in like the whole financial ecosystem. Like giant legacy hedge funds. Even though they were doing long Bitcoin, short MicroStrategy, they've dumped all their Bitcoin. Miners had to sell Bitcoin. All these OG wallets that were trading up at 120. That wasn't individuals. That was miners having to sell to diversify their business to comply with this index MSCI thing, which I will try and explain. In other words, we had a FUD storm. Instead of generating it from China, we generated it from Wall Street. Everybody thinks, oh, Wall Street's embracing Bitcoin. Isn't this great? Yeah. Okay. Wall Street embraced the Bitcoin ETF or ETFs as their way to play. Then as they realize that Besson is going to use stable coins as a way to create money and that the AI agent economy is going to run on crypto rails, they all of a sudden got that really ugly, icy sort of like chill that they're not going to be in complete control of things anymore. That would be Jamie Dimon and the Fed, right? The only difference between the two of them is, they wear better suits at JP Morgan. So all this hate, JP Morgan came out and was like, oh, MicroStrategy is going to get kicked out of all the indices. Okay. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not true. All I know is Legacy woke up one day and they said, let's kick Michael Saylor in the stones as a way to get everyone to FUD Bitcoin. And you know what? In many ways, it worked. It worked, right? Everyone in crypto is negative. Everyone's talking about the end of the 4-year cycle in the bear market. VanEck is like, whoa, my goodness, watch out. Guys in suits say, I'm concerned about Bitcoin's encryption and privacy. Oh my God. Bitcoin has no privacy. Dude, McAfee told you that in 2018. But of course, if you listen to Toby Ward, you would learn, or Raoul Paul, or Mike Novogratz, right? That, Bitcoin is the settlement layer for the AI trade. The AI trade will be built around decentralized money. So everyone's like, oh, AI is the future. But we don't want to have Bitcoin. We don't want that. We want to get rid of Michael Saylor. We want to punish the digital asset treasury companies. Why? Because they compete with BlackRock and the Bitcoin ETF. So all of a sudden, everyone's bearish. Everyone's negative. Everyone's after Michael Saylor. And you know what? Every single time that kind of stuff happens, the market goes up. Here it is. Here's the market going up picture, right? Everybody after Michael Saylor, even though the stock has crashed. But here's something that you need to know now. Hedge funds for the last 2 years at least, they have been long Bitcoin, short MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy used to trade at a substantial premium to the Bitcoin that it held. So if the Bitcoin MicroStrategy held was worth $1, MicroStrategy traded at $2 or $3. Now, what has happened is, 60s, because it is, FUD regarding MicroStrategy getting kicked out of all these special stock indexes, which is a very strange thing unto itself, created by Wall Street, no doubt. MicroStrategy has come down and is worth almost the same as the Bitcoin that it holds. Now, in order for hedge funds to take profits on this trade, right, they were long Bitcoin, short MicroStrategy. What do they have to do? Well, they have to cover either shorts or derivatives exposure in MicroStrategy. Here's MicroStrategy going from 500 in July to 150. Essentially down only. Hedge funds ring the register, cover the MicroStrategy short or liquidate their bearish derivatives position, and do what? Dump all the Bitcoin. Which is why Bitcoin was down only, because the money went from Bitcoin back to the legacy system, leaving the money goes from the crypto ecosystem back to legacy, and crypto experiences what is effectively like a tightening, meaning liquidity left. Okay, that sounds terrible. So you have FUD, liquidity exiting the market, MSCI FUD, Jamie Dimon fighting Scott Bessent and Trump, right? JP Morgan and the Fed versus Bitcoin, with Bitcoin winding up on the short end of the stick. But here's the funny thing. No one in legacy owns Bitcoin anymore. Yeah, they've covered their trade and they're going home for the holidays, but they don't own Bitcoin anymore. Retail has no money. 30% of Americans are having no holidays and can't pay their mortgages, leaving this market open to a dramatic turn where people cannot participate, as regrettable as that is. So if the market starts to go up, legacy's not long anymore. The digital asset treasury companies have crashed. The Bitcoin mining stocks have crashed. We have recommendations for which ones to buy, which hit Patreon 2 days ago. We have a situation where all the people that were bullish are now bearish. Everybody is convinced that the cycle is over, except Toby Ward and me, which is why you should get in the YouTube member podcast, because we have price targets for 2 layer ones that would blow your mind. One of the layer ones is trading at $1. When she handed me the price target on this thing, I'm like, oh my God, I have to get way longer than I am right now, way longer, right? Like certain altcoins, layer ones have been absolutely pushed out of a moving car. Pushed out of a moving car. Now, today we had NVIDIA news, which I think increases the bullish case for Bitcoin. So Google has made a chip, okay? They're calling it the Google TPU instead of a GPU. And the key for Bitcoin is this. The bigger the demand for chips, processing power, which in my mind is infinite in this world, the demand for processing power is so high that Bitcoin miners who were selling to diversify their businesses, they can rent out their computing power to AI companies, get additional revenue space or get additional revenue so that when they mine Bitcoin, they don't have to dump it to fund their operations. So let's go over this again. Bitcoin miners have sold what they need to sell and may not need to sell in the future. Legacy has gotten themselves out of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin ETF is now down 30% for the year, and everybody is all down on it. Retail has exited and doesn't want to come back, even though crypto Twitter wants a bottom to be in. Crypto Twitter has been wrong about absolutely everything this year, right? Tariffs would create inflation, wrong. Bitcoin would follow money supply, wrong. Now, hopefully crypto Twitter, like the broken clock, is right about the bottom being in at 80. Our models had watch out below 90. And then really the model I should have listened to that had 80 as a downside target turned around and was like, you know what? 81, 82, 86, add. Because if it goes back above 90, you have a 75% chance of a Raoul Pal banana move. Because how do you get a banana move? Well, it's simple. You get everybody out. Everybody out. No one believes this thing's going up. It sits here at 80. It doesn't trade well. It's not exciting. And that's exactly how you start a bull market. Gradually and then suddenly. Nobody had any money in 2008 when the stock market bottomed. Everybody was wrecked. Nobody understood quantitative easing. Nobody knew what that was. I remember looking at that in the report. I'm like, what is that? This time around, no one understands what Besant can do with the Treasury general account and stablecoins. Anybody remember stablecoins and the trillions that they wanted to get involved in that? Yeah, everyone's forgotten about it. You'll forget about it until Besant pushes the button and high-powered money floods into the system. Okay, meaning everyone is expecting stonks to go down to catch up with crypto. That's the consensus, right? That's why fear greed over in stocks is so high, because it's at an all-time high and everyone thinks it's going to crash at any moment, which is not true. Nasdaq goes up every day. Kramer is protesting it. Kramer protesting an up move. Who thought? Who knew? No one has considered that crypto was artificially suppressed by a completely normal 40% correction, which is solely derived on FUD. It's just a different form of FUD, one that wasn't obvious. And that Bitcoin couldn't turn around and catch up with stonks and then some. Like, everybody thinks it's dead. Everybody thinks everything is a bubble. Here's Peter Schiff's victory lap. Bubbles popping everywhere. I'm right. I'm smiling. I'm happy. Look at me with the big smile on my face. Look at me in my new YouTube studio. I'm now a superstar because I hate Bitcoin. Meanwhile, French fries are $4. So now you get half as many French fries as you used to at twice the price. Don't worry, everything's fine. Retail sales disappointing in September. Can't wait to see Black Friday. And ADP employment report shows, paging Mr. Greenspan, paging Scott Bessent, and everything they're going to have to do to win the election in 2026. Everybody has forgotten that the orange man likes to get everyone leaning negative and then whip it back positive. We had Eric Trump yesterday showing off all the stuff that they got, all the Bitcoin mining equipment, all this stuff. They are sitting there knowing what is going to happen and completely blowing it. We are completely blowing off what they're saying. Crypto still jittery. Watch out. Options expiration is coming. That's this Friday. Also, remember that you have Thanksgiving Day, United States, a very big holiday involving food, relatives, gratitude, and then sleeping off your meal on the couch while watching football. Now, famously on Western holidays, Easter, Memorial Day, July 4th, every time there's a big holiday, crypto loves to do a 15 to 20% move. Just rip it. Rip it. Now, a week ago, before listening to Toby Ward in the YouTube member area, and before going through all the GAN model stuff that we've published in Patreon Platinum, we've published so much in Patreon Platinum, we've practically broken the place. Before doing all that, I was worried that there was going to be some sort of nasty decline over Thanksgiving. Now I'm more of the opinion that if there's risk that they rip it, that they catch all of these people who think they're going home for the year. They're not going home for the year because it's essentially the perfect bullish storm. The perfect bullish storm. Now, if you stuck around for all that, let's go to Bulltard charts, starting with the Bitcoin ETF. Okay. Now, everybody is looking at the 50-week moving average, and everyone is like, well, the close through the 50-week moving average is a disaster, right? And it could be. It could be. But everything that crypto Twitter is looking at, in my opinion, is wrong. It's just that simple, right? If everyone is looking at the same thing, it's wrong. If everyone expects the same thing, something else happens. So let's look at the Bitcoin ETF. It's the complete history, and I will draw it live on the air. We'll do it this way. So we're going to do some basic Elliott wave. So first you start with a one wave. That's the excitement off the bottom. Then you go to a 2-wave, which is normally slow, boring, and sideways. That talks you out of your position right before things go up, up, up for your 3-wave. That's where you get a lot of gratification in a very impulsive way. Notice you really didn't take any heat from August of 24 to October of 25, save this yen carry trade puke over here. And then because you had a slow and boring 4-wave, you get a dramatic, sharp, nasty, fast 4-wave. So long and slow 2-wave means vertical 4-wave, meaning you just collapse 40% on a massive FUD storm. And then you get your emotional 5-wave where everybody, their brother and their cousin has to pile back in because at 80, it was a bear market and it was going to zero and Michael Saylor was going to get liquidated. But at 130, it'll be a must add to any portfolio. Now, on the subject of even numbers and 50, we have noticed that if you look at the 50% retracement of the 3-wave, which is, you're either going to have a 50% retracement or a 62% retracement, normally an elite wave. So isn't it interesting that the Bitcoin ETF retraced 50% of its move, and that happens to be at the even number dollar price of 50. 50 for 50. That to me is interesting because, they're giving you a nice little even entry price at 50 for a possible move to 100. But is Bitcoin going to 160 that ridiculous? How can it be ridiculous when everybody thought it was going to 200? Everyone's year-end target at the start of this year was 200. Now VanEck is like, well, we need to rethink Bitcoin. Please. Somebody says I need a haircut. Bro, I don't need a haircut. I'm saying I just pulled out all my hair because I thought the market was going to zero along with everybody else because we couldn't figure out what the selling was about. The selling was about this legacy Wall Street FUD that was underneath the surface, the fear of all these Bitcoin-related companies, the digital asset companies, and the miners getting kicked out of stock indexes. Nobody saw that. No one saw them attacking Michael Saylor to the point where he was green in the gills. I saw an interview on CoinDesk. Man, he looks terrible. Terrible. Attack the Bitcoin spokesperson. Attack MicroStrategy. I mean, the guy made the space. He was the one-man marketing unit for the Bitcoin ETF for BlackRock. And effectively, as soon as digital asset treasury companies like Tom Lee's company, think about this. As soon as Tom Lee's company, the ETH treasury company, and then the Solana treasury company run by the guy from Multicoin Capital, who was like Mr. Solana from the beginning, these are competition for Bitcoin ETFs. They're competition. Well, can't have any competition at Wall Street because they want to dominate everything. Okay, great. So let me get this straight. You guys are afraid of Bitcoin. Well, you should be. Long Bitcoin, short the banks. We don't need you. We don't need Silicon Valley. We don't. We do not need you. We just went through a whole podcast about how, the AI and crypto world is a redundant term. Crypto will be done. AI will be done through crypto. Now, the big boys are spending all kinds of money, but that's okay. Because when that happens here, when the AI agent trade comes to crypto, you're going to have price moves, which we discussed, and we discussed the roadmap. Like, when's it going to go up? When's it going to go down? Discussed all that an hour ago. So I would strongly encourage you to FOMO into that because, that's almost like that podcast is almost like a one-stop shop. Almost a one-stop shop, right? And again, Patreon guys have got, related material, portfolios, all of it, because they're going to create what they're afraid of. They're afraid of us going around them with Bitcoin and crypto, period. So they created a FUD storm. Just like the Chinese kicked out all the Bitcoin miners because, you know, if we can't surveil it and we can't control it, we don't want it in our country. Texas, the great state of Texas would like to thank them for that, as all that Bitcoin mining comes over here. And now they're actually trying to get back in the game. Whoops. And these characters that just FUDded Bitcoin, boy, they're going to be really embarrassed when their wealth management clients goes, why did you guys FUD it at 80? Why didn't you call me back up and say, hey, let's get involved? No, sorry. Can't control it. Now, Bitcoin Mining Index, WGMI after WGMI. Very similar situation, right? You have this big 5-wave move up, this big trend, right? As Bitcoin mining companies diversify into AI. So the Bitcoin mining or the Bitcoin miners, which I argued were undervalued for years, all of a sudden become meme stocks or AI stocks, and they go from 16 to 60. That's what this ETF did. Now, when you go from 16 to 60, you're going to have a correction. You're going to have a correction, right? Why is a correction or a 50% retracement all of a sudden a transition into a bear market? Are you crazy? A, B, C. Right on top of a LuxAlgo trend line, right on top of the 50% retracement of this whole, monster 3-wave up move. Again, what is the problem? What is the problem? You did a 50% retracement of a parabolic move. LuxAlgo coming in with a nice buy signal here. Every time LuxAlgo came in with these buy signals, this stuff did fairly well. Everybody's selling. I mean, listen, you want to see what they did to Bitcoin miners? This is Marathon Digital. Okay. Now, I'll give you a hint. This is like one of the Bitcoin miners that we put in Patreon that we like. Marathon Digital is not going to get kicked out of the indexes. They're not. They're fine. 22 to 10 to the discount zone. They destroyed it. I mean, LuxAlgo is inserting all kinds of resistance, assuming this is completely broken. Okay, well, maybe it's completely broken, but what happens if it's not? This is what I showed in the Bitcoin miners for years. When you look at like the weekly chart, Marathon Digital was as high as 70. Now, you've had a lot of cryptos. You've had a lot of Bitcoin miners do this. Okay, but this down only thing, like this is people giving up. This is a sentiment indicator. And again, the higher the demand for GPUs, the better it is for Bitcoin miners and the better it is for Bitcoin. So what people perceived as OG whales selling at the top of the cycle, which is what it looked like, the intelligence community will tell you nothing is what it seems. And no one is talking about this. They won't be talking about it until it gets back above 115. They won't. They'll just be like, oh my God, it's bearish. And then because I'm waving my hands in the air, like I just don't care, I did a couple collabs, one with a group of hedge fund guys, another one with Crypto Princess, an underrated YouTuber out of the UK, along with a really smart guy today who had like a lot of like Raoul Paul style graphs. Smart. Okay, so let's talk about 1999. Purple Rain. The blue line is the complete history of the Bitcoin ETF, spuriously superimposed on the beginning, or at least the big chunk, of the internet uptrade back in 1998 and the first 9 months of 1999. Now, Greenspan, the head of the Fed chair, the Fed the head of the Fed, somewhere back over here, like in 1997, declared equities in an irrational exuberance phase, at which point, after a little hedge fund pickle and currency crisis in Asia, stocks were, kind of in an orderly up-only phase, not vertical, but clearly trending higher, kind of like the Bitcoin ETF. And then in October of 1999, there was this dip, and everyone's like, it's over, it's done, not happening, it's a bubble, stay away from it. Just like Bitcoin here, with its like monster overextended FUD storm. And then Nasdaq, just to make sure everyone understood, went completely vertical. Like this here was not the bubble. This was the bubble. So what am I trying to tell you? Everyone is like, it's a top, it's a top, it's a top, it's a top. And I'm like, it's a bottom, it's a bottom, it's a bottom, it's a bottom. It's a bottom. It's not just a bottom, but it's a bottom before a possible vertical up move. Because everyone is out. Everyone is out. Right? Like they don't own Bitcoin and legacy. Mining stocks have destroyed. The whole thing is considered diseased. No one wants to touch it. I mean, how high is Bitcoin going to have to go before people go, yeah, you know what? This is okay. Like our model that we gave Patreon was 82, 84, 86. If you get through those levels and hold, it's going. And then there are other levels where, when we cross some of these other technical points, you start to get, warning, 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 banana zone imminent. No one wants to talk about the banana zone anymore. No one. Why? Right? I mean, we talked about it all year, and then you're about to get it, and you don't want it. You don't want it. Like, AI agents are going to trade. What layer ones are they going to trade on? Covered, again, in the YouTube member area. Right? How high can this go? Again, covered in Patreon. Can MicroStrategy ever come back? Has fading Michael Saylor ever worked? Like, wouldn't it be funny if they kicked him out of the indexes and then the stock turned around and smoked higher? Because who's ever going to be able to buy as much Bitcoin as he has? And even if that's not true, even if it's not true, everybody giving on Bitcoin right before AI agents come online, to me, feels crazy. And, another thing that no one talks about that everyone has given up on, we're calling ETH the AI trust and verification layer, right? Toby has a favorite layer 2. One of my friends and former colleague will love this, but ETH is very close to breaking out quietly, right? LuxAlgo comes in with a bottom signal on the 4-hour chart. And you know what? I'll show you something else. Would you look at what they did to Sui? Right? They crashed it, and then they took it straight down. And then look at these DeMark signals. You have a 9 and a 13 bottom right in the same place. I mean, Sui, think about it. Sui is back where it was before the election. And this brings me to the whole idea of alt season, even though I can't say that around Toby because I get smacked with the goddess sandal, but I don't care. Everyone's like, it's over. What's over? The bull market? What bull market? You had Bitcoin go up. You had an altcoin spike in 2024, all the way up, all the way down, basically a giant bear market rally. Very exciting, with Solana going from 10 to 200. Very exciting. Then you had an American-made crypto rally, all the way up, all the way down, right? So you had the orange man squeeze, complete with him unloading his meme coin at the top of the market, only to see everything get wrecked and wind up right back where it was when he got elected. If they don't have the crypto bro vote in 2026, they're not only going to lose the election, they're going to lose the midterms badly. And you have stuff like the banks are afraid of XRP. They are. They're scared to death of XRP. And we have an XRP connected pick in, guess where? The YouTube member area. They're afraid. They're afraid of all of this stuff. I even think they're afraid of Zcash, Monero, Dash, and Bitcoin Cash. Because if anything has been revealed over the last, say, I don't know, month, it's that you can have sector leadership, you can have privacy lead, you can have privacy lead all next year. Matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, you can BTFD and all privacy coins all the time. You get a dip in Zcash, take a shot. You get a dip in Dash, take a shot. You get a dip in Pirate Coin, Dusk, right? Take a shot, right? They have proven that you can buy a dip and make money in privacy, and that goes for Monero as well. Everyone's like, we're in a bear market. I'm like, no, we were in a bull market in privacy. No one believes it because everybody was too focused on being negative. Meanwhile, you had this bull market going on and everyone's like blowing it off. It's like, no, it's not happening. Like, Zcash is now being reported as like the #1 search thing in crypto. Okay. Not just the #1 searched crypto. Zcash was the #1 searched asset in November of 2025, and it did a 20x. Happy Thanksgiving to the Hot Mess Express. Thank you. So what we're saying is Zcash is the only crypto trading between 50 and 100 market cap that can 20x. What's in 50 to 100 market cap? Render. Anybody remember that? Right? All these layer ones that we were talking about all year long. Toby Ward cannot stop producing altcoin reports, which we went over on the podcast. We actually ran out of time. And another one just hit. I mean, not this member podcast, but the one before that. It's an hour-long podcast. You only have to listen to the first 3 minutes. Because as soon as she opened her mouth right here, she laughed at my panic. Why she still bets 180K. Like, the first thing she said, I could have wrapped it up right there. Right there. Because everyone's looking for a bear market. Wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. Yes, traders have the advantage right now. They're not taking any heat on shorts. They're selling every rally. The recent rally was described by somebody who I respect as nothing more than a kind of a corpse in the water floating up to the surface. Wrong. Now, I understand traders have to protect P&L. Traders don't want to get crushed over Thanksgiving, and I understand that. But also what you need to understand is that my job as an analyst is not to trade. My job as an analyst is to find the transition between 2 waves and 3 waves and the transition between 4 waves and 5 waves. Because if you catch a real 5 wave, you get this. And if you think Bitcoin can't do this with just literally every fiat system is failing. And if you go back to the Bitcoin ETF, here's another little tidbit for you. and this is true, Charles Schwab, Stocks 101. Take every sector from, S&P and tech stocks, Magnificent Seven, to emerging markets, small caps in sub-Saharan Africa. Every single sector on like this 8.5 by 11 sheet. What's at the top? If you own it, sell. What's at the bottom? Buy. Automatically, just rotate. Because frequently, the stuff that did great this year doesn't do great next year, and the stuff that underperformed comes back. So what's the worst performing asset in stonks as of now? The Bitcoin ETF. So here's your 5 wave, right? Your 3 wave is like, okay, it goes up, it goes up. 5 wave is like, zoop. Just like this. Don't think it can happen? Feel free to sell rallies. Feel free. It's been working. It's going to keep working, right? You know what I think, right? You know what I think? Because everyone is out. And if they're not out financially, they're out psychologically. They have packed it in. The cycle's over. They're done. They're done, right? Because everything that they wanted, like they wanted Bitcoin to follow money supply, Bitcoin went the other way. Just think about the disappointment. The government was supposed to moon their bags. They didn't. Even though Besant is sitting on $1 trillion and Eric Trump knows exactly what Besant is going to do with that $1 trillion, he's going to inject it into the system. And when that happens, forget about it, which is why stocks don't go down. Everybody is afraid. Oh my God, it's a bubble. Yeah, okay. So, the Fed is going to have to cut rates to prop up the banks. That's probably later. And Besant wants control of money creation, and he can do it. The Fed and JP Morgan can cry me a river, blank you and the horse you rode in on, right? Bitcoin is going to absolutely lead the way. And, if you wake up on Thanksgiving and you got 92 Bitcoin, oh, hey, you want to get wild? Let's get wild. What about 94K Bitcoin? What happens if Bitcoin is the best Black Friday buy? What are people going to do? The ETFs closed, right? I mean, the market, I want to say equities closed. Maybe they close early on Wednesday, and I don't know if it's a full day on Friday. But you got Thursday, Sunday, and Monday with stonks closed. So you got 3 days for crypto to do something big. Could it crash? Certainly. You have the death cross. You have the 50-week moving average. You have all the Twitter TA. Then it's terrible. I'm not going to not respect what the technicals are saying. However, if all of that winds up reversing itself with legacy closed, with the suppressors watching as spectators, what happens? What happens? I mean, everyone wants the Bitcoin strategic reserve. Uncle Sugar is trying to get you to pay your taxes in Bitcoin. You don't have to experience the capital gains. You send all the Bitcoin to Uncle Sugar. They want to do the strategic reserve through, of all places, the IRS. Now, this is not a done deal yet, right? But Congress should pass my Bitcoin for America Act and give the U.S. a stronger financial foundation. I wonder where he got that idea from. Maybe from Scott Bessent, the guy who used to work for George Soros. I mean, these guys know how to move markets. They know how to take advantage of big swings. And people act like he's not there. He's there, along with his $1 trillion. Right? And everybody thinks, not only do they think Bitcoin's not going to go up. I mean, if you thought that, that's understandable, right? It's down only. Every uptick gets sold. Like I said, I get it. The charts have all broken down, at least the Twitter TA. Although we have a different spin on moving averages in Patreon Platinum, little piece called Start Your Engines. some mind-blowing moving average work, which, you know, you have to go there to find it. Okay. Everybody thinks it can't happen, just fine. But people also think it's a bear market. So not only are they bearish on the instruments, but they think the whole market is done, which we're telling you in the YouTube member area that it hasn't even started. I mean, we're picking altcoins, and Toby Ward is writing inspirational poems to break the bear market brain so you can see what's going to happen next. It doesn't matter where you're subscribed. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you listen to these 2 podcasts or these 3 podcasts and then get in Patreon and get some of these reports, I mean, her upside targets in 2 big layer ones, yeah, I have to fix my portfolio. You know, I may have to make a choice, you know, between stuff that's going to 20x and things that I ideologically love, like Zcash and Dash. I don't know. I don't know what to do with myself. You know, what a huge problem. I'm so bullish, I don't know what to buy when everyone else is like perma down in the mouth. What is everyone doing? What are you doing? Right? And I got to be honest with you. There's a lot of confusion in the market. There is. Like nowhere better than you can see it on my Twitter. So, you know, a bunch of super smart guys from hedge funds, they said, hey, why don't you come on our podcast? You know, they weren't aware that I was going to show the 1999 graph, right? They kind of looked at me like I was crazy, and then they featured me in the tweet, which is funny, right? You know, Crypto Princess has me on his show, or her show, with a guy named FOMotion who had a lot of stuff. So people are like, hey, you know, why don't you come on the show? And critical alert, is the bear market here? No. And oh, by the way, Janice and friends over at Antivirus and Matrix are having a podcast tonight about a guy who got sent to prison for writing privacy code. I mean, they have a Solana, I call it a receipt. They're going to build Monero on steroids, right? Guys with track records who delivered 75 individual items on the antivirus roadmap are going to build a privacy chain to be released in 2026 that allows for the creation of private stable coins with Monero and Zcash as collateral and all kinds of stuff that is so mind-boggling. It's everything you ever wanted from the McAfee privacy universe. What is the market cap of the Solana token that will eventually get you the Matrix token, which will be on its own blockchain? Like what is the coupon trading for? 1 million market cap. Do you know what the market cap of that privacy coin is going to be when it comes out and people go, oh wow, this is a privacy coin from McAfee's group? Oh. The whole market is asleep at the wheel. It's like the Zcash rally never happened. Literally. Like, I talk about Zcash being this like leading indicator for the rest of the market. And we have VanEck telling you that the Zcash rally is a problem. Like, oh no, wait, you mean Bitcoin doesn't have a privacy feature? I need to get out of Bitcoin. No, dude. No. First of all, you need to shave your head because that look is terrible. Second of all, dude, you don't have to get out of Bitcoin. You have to get into everything else. Wrong again is like big support points are broken. Yes, they are. Right? I call it the overshoot of the overshoot of the overshoot. So I had 99, 94, and 90. So it overshot 99. It went to 94, overshot that. And just to make sure you understood, they overshot 90, took it down to 81, made you thought it was going to 0. Like, I thought I was going to lose my, I thought I was going to come unglued. I'm like, what the? is this about? What is going on here? The overshoot of the overshoot of the overshoot. The last time I saw this was the 2011 bottom in equities, where it just kept going and going and going and going. And then when that reversed, stocks, a lot of single stocks went up, like a lot of big single stocks went up 70% all at once. That's how I maintain my employment for the next 5 years. I sent out a message at the bottom. I closed my eyes and goes, this is a bottom, having no idea that every salesperson at Goldman at the time emailed that out to every single client base, the proprietary trading desk. Everybody bought stocks, and 5 days later, they were up 50%. And I was a hero. I didn't even know it. I was like, I'm an idiot. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to send this out. I'm going to be bullish. I was generally the guy that would help find the tops. This feels no different. No different. Let's see who we got going on here. Richard Price wants to buy Bitcoin at 74. And he wants to buy MicroStrategy at 100. You know, buying MicroStrategy at 100 may not be a bad thing, and it may happen. But you'll get MicroStrategy at a discount to Bitcoin, which can be very powerful, right? In other words, it can stop hedge funds from doing this trade that's kind of making everything a mess. It'd actually be okay with some of that. Phil C says, weak hands are out. Burger can cook. Buy TAO, our #1 pick. By a long shot. Hal Lopez with the super chat in euros from Portugal, up in the middle of the night, right? Up in the middle of the night. Igno to Blue, welcome. Crypto Cold, right? Turbulent, Rave Song Records, welcome. Daydream Believer St. Louis, a new member. Hi. Andre Wrecked Degen. Okay. Pump.fun ruined this cycle. Dude, Pump.fun ruined the market. Toby Ward has hated meme coins for so long that we had to do the end of meme coin trade presentation today, just so everybody makes sure they understood. Okay, I have not looked at Monad yet, although, again, as I understand it, a successful ICO in the middle of a bear market, supposedly, right? Again, a bull market thing in a bear market, or supposedly. Okay. Ara Machina likes the analysis. Good. Right. Half day on Friday. Dude, you got to watch out for this. You don't have Black Friday sales where they want it. Besant is coming in. Trump will call Besant and say, come in if Black Friday is meh. Candlestick TV, I'm never selling. Yav is here, right? People are analyzing to the point of paralysis. When altcoin rally? Sir, ready? Now. Now. I was on a podcast. Everyone's like, yeah, we never had alt season. Alt season's dead. We're never, this is the talk. Alt season is never coming back. Now, 2024 meme season, where everything pumps, is probably not coming back. That doesn't mean there aren't 6 Zcashes out there. It doesn't mean TAO cannot be a top 5 coin. And one of the things that we did in the YouTube member area is use, I don't know, fictional language, poetry, English as a way to explain what TAO does, what Solana's role will be in the AI trade. Everyone's like, AI, 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 AI. Everywhere except here. Everywhere. Right? Oh my God, it's overvalued in stonks. No, it's undervalued in crypto. And, you know, Toby doesn't want to talk about the AI trade because she thinks all of crypto is the AI trade. And you're like, what? What does that mean for fill in the blank coin? What does it mean for the top 20? In other words, she just single-handedly came up with a framework on different ways to look at Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana. Solana market cap, 77 billion. NVIDIA market cap, 5 trillion. Solana, the future home of stablecoins and AI agents, 77 billion. Zcash 20x and only got to number 15 market cap. 20x'd. Monero could 20x. Monero just got itself in the top 10. And look at all this stuff. No one wants Avalanche. No one wants Sui, Polkadot, Mantle. No one wants it. TAO, number 32 at 3 billion market cap. What happens if TAO goes top 5? You know, layer ones near ICP at the bottom half of the top 50. WorldCoin, Skynet coin, as much as I hate talking about that, right? Like the top 100 has layer one. Does anybody remember how hot Render was back in the day? I mean, folks, I wouldn't call it altcoin season. You can just have an altcoin normalization rally. In other words, we can take altcoins from laughably cheap to basically where they should be trading relative to the rest of AI. It's like the pump.fund token is 66 on the market cap chart as just under $1 billion. Let's name all the tokens that are worth less than the pump.fund token. Sky, formerly Maker, a DeFi protocol. Render, SEI, Dash. Okay. Fast Bitcoin, a payment version of Bitcoin with a little bit of privacy. Worth less than pump.fund. Jupiter. The artificial superintelligence token, F. Immutable X, Optimism, Virtuals at number 84. But, you know, we're not doing the AI trade anymore. We're not doing it. Let me just share the screen so we can all have a laugh. Injective Protocol. The Graph. Okay, a data management system on the books of Multicoin Capital. Nah, we don't want that. That's worth less than SPX 6900. Don't want it anymore. We don't want it. Can you believe it? I mean, Algorand is 154. Caspa was up 20% in the last 7 days. What are we doing? What are we doing? Right? Crypto is too cheap. It's too cheap. And Bitcoin Radio is right. I like this point. Monero has done nothing but bounce around for years. And you know what, dude? You're absolutely right. And I want to introduce the square range formation in Monero. I don't know if I get the whole thing. Let me get over here and let's talk about Monero. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about privacy. Let's talk about privacy. Everyone's like, what's the 2026 preview? Like, what's going to happen next year? Okay, well, let's talk about it. Want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. I'm pulling up this Monero chart, and personally, I think it's worth the wait. Because you want to know what Monero has done? Nothing. Nothing. Here's the monthly chart of Monero, right? So Monero and TAO on a daily chart looks like this, right? Monero has been in a box, right? Every time Monero goes to 500, they sell it. Every time Monero goes to 100 something, they buy it. Okay, great. Now, what happens if this breaks out and follows Zcash? You can't get this anywhere except Kraken. And of course, what goes up? What no one likes, whatever, you know, what no one likes, what no one knows how to buy, and what no one owns. Nobody owns Zcash until the Winklevoss twins came out and said, let's pump up the jam. How long do you think it's going to be before you start seeing Monero treasury companies? You don't think that's going to happen? It's going to happen. When machines come online, privacy is going to go from something for pirates to something that normal people need. Period. End of story. End of story. Bitcoin Radio says the Bitcoin Cash all-time high was 8 years ago. You know, because again, transactional Bitcoin, right? Like what happens if machines or people want transactional Bitcoin? Bitcoin Cash. So this Bitcoin Cash monthly. Note this little nifty pennant that they got going down here. Interesting, right? Premium zone. I'm sorry. The high in Bitcoin Cash, 3,000. You know, it can't happen, right? I mean, Zcash's all-time high was above 900. When it came out, it went to like 3,000 on first print, something like that. The traded high was 900. But, you know, it could never happen in Bitcoin Cash and Monero. It happened in Zcash, but it can't happen anywhere else. What, are you kidding me? What happens if Zcash price action actually finds its way into Bitcoin, Solana, or ETH, or two of the other layer ones that we think can 50x, 20x? Okay. Yeah, so Bitcoin Radio says anything is possible, but Zcash has the inside trade with U.S. exchanges. I got it. Yeah, absolutely. Right. It's listed on Gemini and Coinbase. Right. But so is Dash. So is Bitcoin Cash. So is Litecoin. Right. Coinbase, normies. Like when normies figure out, like normies will not want it at 81K. But what happens if normies see it cross 100 again? They're going to be like, oh my God, we just missed it at 80. In other words, the idea of a reclaim, which again, we cover in Patreon, the idea of reclaiming certain levels can trigger institutions and retail. I mean, in the meantime, do you really need to watch a live stream to know that if you're day trading, you sell every rally until proven wrong? No, you do not. You do not. But you do need to know, if you're looking for the trend, that if you catch everybody sleeping over Thanksgiving and there's a higher probability that the market goes up versus the rally going down, because we've had the Jamie Dimon, MSCI, you know, Bitcoin miner, FUD storm. Michael Saylor, it's just like, what more FUD are they going to come up with? What's the new FUD that's going to push it down? The bad news is out. And if I'm wrong, I'll lose money. That's the market update for today. We will see you tomorrow.